Palden Save Lama Rinpoche Dagi Chiwa Pende Den Shula Kadrin Chempe Gone Jesonte Kusun Tu Jing Adru Sadu So Sanje Chudang Soji Chonam La Shanju Badu Dane Chap Suji Tagi Jin Soji Pe Sunam Ji Dola Penje Sanje Dupasho Sanje Chudang Soji Chonam La Shanju Badu Dane Chap Suji Tagi Jin Soji Pe Sunam Ji Dola Penje Sanje Dupasho Sanje Chudang Soji Chonam La Shanju Badu Dane Chap Suji Tagi Jin Soji Pe Sunam Ji Dola Penje Sanje Dupasho Semchen Tamje Deva Dan Deve Dudan Den Pajujik Dunga Dan Dunga Jin Judan Dalwa Jujik Dungal Mepe Deva Dampadang Mindal Wajujik Nyering Chadan Dan Dalwe Tonyom Chempola Nepa Jujik Semchen Tamje Deva Dang Dewe Judang Den Pajujik Dunga Dan Dunga Jin Judan Dalwa Jujik Dungal Mepe Deva Dampadang Mindal Wajujik Nyering Chadan Dan Dalwe Tonyom Chenpola Nepa Jujik Semchen Tamje Deva Dan Dewe Judan Den Pajujik Dunga Dan Dunga Jin Judan Dalwa Jujik Dungal Mepe Deva Dampadang Mindal Wajujik Nyering Chadan Dan Dalwe Tonyom Chenpola Nepa Jujik Ning To Chempe Payo Len Mantra Lodra Chempe Chukun Denisik Tupa Chempe Chamdru Chiyantan Lotsa Chempe Shabla Solvandep Nutu Chempe Kunda Seneche Kache Chempe Lama Nyepase Sundu Chempe Dupe Jasenso Repa Chempe Shabla Solvandep Tekpa Chempe Rikcho Yonsu Se Shaja Chempe Tokpang Undujo Tenle Chempe Kadang Nyampada Nigam Chempe Shabla Solvandep Tampa Namla Gupe Sotabtu Drupju Tensen Chonam Shabden Ching Tempa Rinchen Choju Jepadang Jikten Gele Chempe Chapa Sho Jewa Kuntu Yangdai Lamadang Dame Chuji Pala Long Chujing Sadang Lam Ji Yun Ten Rab Sune Dorje Chang Tungma. So good morning everybody, I hope you're all well, and this morning please remember bodhicitta, the motivation of bodhicitta as we start. Whenever you study, contemplate, meditate, our motivation is so important. And then we will continue this Dorje Chang lineage prayer. So we looked in some detail at the lineage, and we looked at the verse on weariness with samsara, renunciation. We looked at devotion, and today we're going on to talk about non-distraction. So before, so we looked at the devotion and how weariness, revulsion is like the feet of meditation. Devotion is like the head of meditation. We're having all these different parts of the body, and of course we want the whole, one whole, complete. We need all the parts. So the devotion was the head of meditation, and one example of the importance of devotion, just to remind you, is that we mustn't be like a stone that is soaking in the water, soaking in the river. If you leave a stone soaking in water, or if you see a stone that has been soaking or lying in the river for a long time, even for hundreds of years, nothing soaks into the stone, right? It stays hard. It doesn't soften. Never mind how long it lies in the river. Never mind how much rain, how many buckets of water we pour over it, the stone stays hard. And that's an example of how the mind is without devotion. Devotion softens the mind. So with devotion, our mind becomes pliable. But without devotion, we would be like that stone, where never mind how many teachings we receive, nothing soaks into us, and it doesn't soften our mind. So devotion is what softens our mind and enables us to receive and to assimilate the teachings. So for that reason, it's very, very important. It says it opens our mind, makes our mind pliable. So then on to the actual body of meditation, that means the bulk, our main part, right? The body of our main bulk of our body is the biggest part. And here it says, now to read to you, it says, non-distraction is taught to be the actual body of meditation. Thus, whatever arises, the true meditator simply rests within the uncontrived, in the very freshness of the essence of thought. Grant your blessing that there may be freedom from the idea of something to meditate on. So remember, we are still directing these different verses to the lineage masters, to the gurus, to all our teachers, to all the previous masters who have shown us through their life example what is possible. They have shown us the path, and here to the Guru who shows us the treasure, who passes on this treasure, who pours this melted gold into the appropriate vessel. We are still directing and asking for blessings for this to happen. The devotion is there continually throughout all of the verses. So here we are praying for non-distraction to arise. First of all, we have to remember we are beginners. I think most of us are beginners still, unless you have a very one-pointed mind that can stay in one place for as long as you wish it to stay there, and then can move on to the next place you decide and stay there for as long as you wish. Then I would say you're a beginner. Until our mind is very pliable, until our mind is very able to stay wherever we wish it to stay for as long as we wish it to stay, then we have not accomplished this non-distraction. We have not really settled the mind yet, so we are still working on that aspect. We are still busy with the main bulk of our practice, and we have not really arrived yet at this uncontrived state of mind. We have not arrived yet at this ability to rest the mind within the essence of thought. And we are asking for blessing that we may be free from the idea of something to meditate on, free from the idea of a meditator and a meditation, this process, this dualistic process of meditation. We want it to become an uncontrived state of mind that is continuously, naturally part of our being. It's like discovering who we are and coming to the place of non-meditation. But this is still in the aspiration stage here. It says, grant your blessing that this may happen. I'm not quite there yet. Please help me. Please help me to make it happen, that my path may progress in that direction, that my meditation may become more and more natural and effortless, less conceptual, less dualistic. So we are looking now and hoping and trying and working on this. Now every time we meditate, every time we sit in a session, this is what we are trying to accomplish. Non-distraction. Non-distraction. So it says Yeng Me. Yeng Me in Tibetan. Yeng Me is the Tibetan word for non-distraction. It means like unwavering. Something that doesn't shake at all. Something that's really, really settled. Yeng Wa is distraction, and Yeng Me is without distraction. Non-distraction, non-wavering, non-wandering. A mind that does not wander. A mind that is capable of this calm abiding. A mind that is capable of placing itself and staying on the object while we are still having this subject and object in our meditation, while we have not reached the objectless meditation still. So we are praying for a non-distracted mind in our practice. That's our main practice, is to develop that. I think that's what we all struggle with, right? If we don't struggle with that, that's a really good sign. If we don't have distraction, if our mind is not pulled to the past and to the future, that's a very good sign. If we're really capable of staying in the present moment with clarity, vividness, presence, alertness, that's where we want to be, that's where we're aiming to be. But as we know, we often get pulled into the past, we get pulled into the future, we're busy thinking about all sorts of ideas. So we have to understand the harm of distraction. We have to understand that this is our big problem, this is our enemy, this is our big issue, distraction. Whether we're on our meditation cushion, whether we are out and about, our mind is just so all over the place and pulled here and there and through our five senses. We see a picture of an ice cream and we want an ice cream. I always remember that because when we went here, when Lama Rinpoche once visited us here in Samye, London, we went, all of us walking in a park, and we passed this advertisement for an ice cream, and right away I said, yes, let's go and get an ice cream. And Lama Rinpoche said to me, look at your mind, look at how easily influenced you are. And I thought, yes, that's true. Nothing really harmful in going for an ice cream, but if we are constantly just reacting to what we experience through our senses, we get pulled here and there, and we have no stability, we have no yengwa, we have no yengme, we have only yengwa. We are fully preoccupied with our five senses, like this monkey jumping, with this image of a monkey inside a room with 5 windows, which it jumps to one, to another, to another, to another. sight, sound, taste, touch, and whatever the fifth one is, touch, taste, smell. Yeah. So our distraction then gives rise to the kleshas. Otherwise they'd be quite harmless, right? But what then happens is desire arises, aversion arises, attachment, clinging, the pain that follows along with that. Same with aversion, jealousy, pride, all the different negative emotions that then, when acted out, give rise to negative karma and actions that cause suffering, both in immediate now and future suffering. And they reinforce our habits. So the more we give in to the distractions, the more we create tendencies, and those tendencies become stronger and stronger, become who we are, who we identify with. And that's what we take on to our next life and next life. We need to, instead of reinforcing our negative habits and negative emotions, we need to reduce them, sort of polish them off, file them down, not give them strength, not make them grow. It's like weeds in the garden, right? You need to do something to starve them of oxygen or nourishment. Don't feed them, don't give them, all sorts of plant food. They'll only get stronger. So we have to recognize this really important point, that distraction is the basis for the negative emotions. If when we are not distracted, when we are mindful, when we are in that present state, non-distraction, there's clarity, and there can be emotions such as positive emotions, but the negative emotions don't have any hold of us. So for that reason, it's very, very important that we work on developing this shine, shamatha, non-distraction. This is what shine is all about. Calm abiding meditation, tranquility meditation, shamatha. So that is the body of, that is our main tool, you could say. The body of meditation is developing that ability to settle the mind. And so how do we do that? How do we do that? We are not able yet. It says the true meditator simply rests within the uncontrived. What it tells us is we are not yet true meditators. We are not yet there. And if you really explain it from the Mahamudra point of view, we have not even started meditation, because meditation is when we come to that uncontrived, natural resting in the essence of thought, the freshness of the essence of thought. Up until then we haven't really arrived at meditation yet. We are at the preliminary stage, preparing for meditation to arrive. So how do we best achieve this non-distraction? And in the many texts on shamatha meditation, shine meditation, there are guidelines in the Mahamudra texts. We have many, many books available now in English that are so wonderful. So it gives us various prerequisites, sort of guidelines for how to nurture our shine meditation, how to nurture our practice, how to nurture this ourselves on the path, how to make sure that we have the right conditions. So let's look at those conditions. So just briefly at first, and then we go into it in more detail. So one, it says to have a suitable environment. Suitable environment is important, both in meditation and in your active life. If your environment is a positive, nourishing environment, or if it's a hostile environment, hostile working environment, it doesn't help us achieve inner stability. So a suitable outer environment. Then you can talk this, that's the first one. Then the second one is contentment. So you could say that's the inner environment, to develop contentment. Simplicity, encourage contentment and few desires. The third one is ethical discipline, to live according to ethics, to live according maybe to, you could say, the 10 precepts, the golden rules, the 5 golden rules. To live according to the Buddhist teachings of non-harming, to give up negative acts, to practice positive acts, to tame our mind. See, the Buddha in the Dhammapada, the Buddha mentioned these 4 lines, saying that is the teachings of all the Buddhas. He doesn't just say, go and sit on your cushion. Go and sit in silence. You know, the wild animals do that. Many of them sit, they go in wilderness and stay alone. The bears sleep for 6 months in the winter in their burrows. They don't necessarily reach enlightenment due to that. So we need more than simply, you know, watching our breath. This is what it is telling us. We need ethical discipline, non-harming of body, speech and mind. And then the fourth one is mindfulness. So developing a mind that's not too busy with past and future and present. These are the, you could say, prerequisites for achieving shamatha or non-distraction. These are the prerequisites for developing the ability of a true meditator to rest in this freshness of the essence of thought. If we leave one of these out, we're going to be out of kilter. It's not really going to work. There's going to be something there that's not quite right. We're not going to get to the result as easily, at least. So let's look at these. If we look at the first one in terms of the environment, to have a suitable environment, what does it mean to have a suitable environment? And this we can translate into, as I said, into our environment for meditation on a day-to-day basis, at home, or in a Dharma center, or in retreat. You can also translate it into your day-to-day environment, wherever you spend most of your time. It's important for your formal meditation sessions that you have a suitable environment as best as we can get the rest of the time as well. Say, for example, if you have a 9-to-5 job, and if your work environment is very hostile, you will take that with you at home. You will feel distressed. You will carry, if there was a lot of gossip or backbiting in your workplace, this is very unsettling and disturbing, and you take that home, and your session, your formal session, will be unsettled. If you are living in a place that is very unsafe and you are worried about burglars and break-ins, or you're worried about violence, or you're worried about drugs or whatever, that is also unsettling for your mind if you don't feel safe in your own home. So suitable environment in all areas of our life is preferable, ideal. Again, when we look at this, we have to recognize that we also have to make peace with reality. We can't necessarily have a perfect environment. It may not exist even for us, because if our mind isn't settled, even if the environment is so-called perfect, we still would not be really appreciative of it. But generally, you could say, an outer environment means to be reasonably quiet, reasonably undisturbed, without lots and lots of distractions or conversation or hustle and bustle day and night, because it makes it harder to focus. And so certainly while you are sitting in meditation, that's a preferred environment. outer environment for your formal session. We can't always be in a quiet environment, and we may not want to be in a quiet environment all the time. Like yesterday, we opened a center to the public for teachings and our tea room for the first time. It was like the roof was coming off. It was so busy and so bustling, but also so lively, but so also very, very nice and stimulating. And I think everybody enjoyed that bustle since we have not had that for a long time. So sometimes having, the contrast can also be stimulating. But in any case, for our meditation, we want to be reasonably quiet. Now that's why Milarepa would be going to the mountains, he went to the caves. Whenever there was too many students that gathered around him, he would move on, he would sort of disappear. They would come and see him and he was gone. He'd moved on to some other isolated place because he found there was a distraction. When his sister came to visit him, started fussing around him and bringing him food and bringing him clothes, in the end he told her, "Sister, you're giving me problems, you're disturbing my meditation. Please don't disturb me, I don't need your sisterly affection." So in that way, some quiet, and of course when you go into retreat, that's also what you are going into retreat for. You are removing yourself from all the daily distractions, all these where that monkey's jumping, all these different advertisements, all these different sensory inputs, all the ways we can distract ourselves and avoid doing what we really know we ought to be doing. So anyway, this place should be reasonably safe, free from hostility, thieves, dangerous animals. We could feel reasonably safe. It should have, if we are on retreat, it should have sustenance where we can have just a simple diet, but we don't have to put a lot of effort into our food. And then what's important is it is a place that is blessed by the great masters. So a place where the great masters have taught the Dharma, have turned the wheel of Dharma, have given blessings, have blessed the place itself, have left relics and blessing pills, and given empowerments and transmissions, etc. So this place have been visited by great masters, established by Akong Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe Rinpoche, visited by His Holiness the 17th Karmapa and other teachers over the years, and like Samye Ling, of course. Samye Ling has had so many great masters, His Holiness Dalai Lama, all the 4 lineage masters, all the lineage masters, the masters of the 4 lineages have all visited Samye Ling and taught there and given transmissions, etc. So a place that has been blessed, it carries, it gives strength to the practitioners who then use it in the future. And in Pure Land's retreat, His Holiness the 16th Karmapa left a footprint. Lama Yeshe Rinpoche did many years of retreat there, and during his retreat, a second footprint actually appeared on that rock during his long retreat. So think of Holy Isle also. We have many places. The reason I'm saying this is that many people in the West, maybe not so much anymore, but it used to be that we all thought that we had to go to India, we had to go to Nepal, we had to go to Tibet in order to be able to practice and receive teachings, and in order to do retreat. Now it isn't, strictly speaking, necessary anymore. It isn't, strictly speaking, better to go to India or Nepal to do it. Maybe some places are, but then we have a language problem when we go to India and Tibet and Nepal, and we have a problem with the noise, we have a problem with the food, we have a problem with the water. There are all sorts of issues that might give us other difficulties. So in any case, a place that has been blessed and is undisturbed, is what we're looking for. And then, as I said, we should make peace with whatever our situation is. Make peace with reality and accept that if whatever we have, if this is the way it is and we cannot change it, then we should work with it. Rather than resent it for the way it is, we should make it part of our practice and not just wish for things to be differently. So outer environment is one thing, but of course like inner environment is more important. So the second is the contentment. Second of these prerequisites for developing a calm mind. Contentment. It's the opposite of attachment and desire, craving. The minute attachment, the minute desire, craving arises in our mind, our shine comes to an end. It's like running into a dead wall, like crashing, having a crash into a wall. We have no more, our shine ends, there's no more stability. We are carried off by our nose rope, as it says. We are pulled away through our own desires. So renunciation, having few desires, is really, really important for developing a settled mind that is capable of resting within this essence of thoughts, that is capable of resting in the freshness of the now. That's not where we are when we're caught up in attachment. When we're always looking for ways to fulfill our desires. Even if we go into retreat, we might be unhappy about the food, we might be unhappy about the cushions, we might be think it's too hot, it's too cold, it's too bright, it's too dark. All sorts of distractions that we are not that means that we are unable to settle. Or when you are in group retreat, your next door neighbor starts to get on your nerves. You can hear their chanting. You can hear when they come and go, when they close their door. So we have to develop a mind that is not so fixated on what we want and how we want things to be. And we need, in order to develop contentment, it's important to contemplate impermanence. By contemplating or recognizing change and impermanence, then that gives us more, it generates this wish for, working with the Dharma. It gives us a motivation for engaging with the Dharma. So it reduces recognition of impermanence, reduces our attachment and desire. Of course, when we see how fleeting everything is, why would we want to be so preoccupied with chasing after so many different things? So Padampa Sangye, who's a great 11th century yogi, he said, to remind us of impermanence, he said, just like the rivers and streams all flow to the ocean, we humans are like that. All living beings are headed for that single destination of death, impermanence, death and dying. So when we remember our own mortality, we don't get so preoccupied with trying to constantly fulfill our desires. We are able to live a more simple life, to be content with simplicity. So Padampa Sangye, he wanted to prepare his students for both for his own death and for their death, for impermanence, for whenever it comes, death of loved ones. And that's what the Dharma does when we practice the Dharma and we contemplate impermanence. It makes us live our life more fully in the present. So it takes, we don't get pulled away by desire. We can rest more in contentment in the present moment, whatever that means for us, for each one of us. But in terms of this verse of resting in the freshness of the essence of thought. So whatever arises, you rest within the uncontrived. You don't get carried away by desire, but you develop a stability of mind, where we know that nothing external is stable, but so we work on developing an inner stability and contentment in the present moment. And also we learn about the consequences of desire and attachment. We recognize the consequences, when we are overcome by attachment, the different problems that it gives rise to, the unsatisfied mind and poverty mentality or the clinging that arises, how unhappy we feel when we're overwhelmed by those emotions. So by being aware of the negative consequences of desire and attachment, which is the opposite of contentment, then we learn to give it up. And by knowing how it is an obstacle to developing this non-distraction and to developing this meditation, true meditation. So, not to orient, what this is telling us is that the prerequisite for developing shamatha is that we should not orient our lives around sensual gratification. It doesn't work together with shine. We need to have a mind that's free to choose, that's free to settle, not a mind that is tied in and imprisoned by grasping and attachment. So then the third prerequisite for developing shine is ethical discipline. How we use our body, speech and mind. Maybe we tend again to think that we can just meditate, and whatever we do outside of meditation is not important. So that is completely wrong to view it like that. It's compared to continuously taking showers, and then after we've been to a shower, we go out and we jump into a mud pool. And we go back into the shower, and we again come and out, and we even roll in a mud puddle and get dirty again. So it makes no sense. We need to recognize this importance also of post-meditation, that all of our activities of body, speech and mind have to be integrated into our Dharma path. Meditation should not be something separate from all the rest of our life. That's a big mistake. If we see Dharma as being separate to the rest of our life, and it's some separate activity that we do, we won't have the full benefit. We won't really develop all the qualities. So here, in terms of ethical discipline, it means that, well, you could look at it as saying that there are three categories of actions that we need to apply ourselves to. One is the negative actions to avoid, one is the positive actions to develop, and the third is the neutral actions to transform, or to transform into the positive. So the negative actions, like in terms of living according to the precepts or the 5 golden rules, we need to give up harming, right? We need to, to the best of our ability, really work on giving up harming, killing, taking lives, stealing, using how we use our speech, in terms of the 10 precepts, for example. How we use body, speech and mind with our speech, not to cause upset through our speech, to try and tame our speech. It's very difficult to become a tamed human being, isn't it? It's very hard to tame our mind, to tame our thinking, to not be judgmental, not to be negative, not to always see faults in everyone, and then not to express that, or in our body language, not to express it, not to develop anger and rejection and resentment. Instead, to develop the positive, to forgive others, to speak positively, to see the positive qualities in others, to see the positive qualities in ourselves and in our own efforts, to encourage ourselves, to encourage others, to do all the things that we know really are positive and right, to actively engage in the positive, not just know about them, but to really make an effort to make them our habitual reactions rather than the negative, as we know, automatically arises. We automatically respond with anger, we automatically respond with rejection, we automatically respond with negative speech and thinking. We don't have to make any effort. So it should be like that with the positive, of course, that we automatically respond with patience. Automatically we don't give in to others' insults. Automatically, like I think Rinpoche used to say, we should be like a big pillow that can be punched and nothing can get through. Nothing can harm us, because our patience is so big. Our mind is so spacious that we can take whatever arises. This is part of ethical discipline. This is what we need if we are going to develop Shine, if we are going to develop this non-distraction and true meditation. We need to live according to ethics. To this moral compass has to become very strong. It has to be like you call it GPS in your car. Maybe that's what we should develop. Somebody should invent this GPS. Is that what you call a GPS tracker? This kind of thing you put in the car and it tells you which way to go. Turn right now, turn left now, go straight ahead, 10 miles ahead. We should have something like that we could link into, and we should, it should put us right if we go astray and remind us of what is positive and what is negative. It might become a little bit annoying though, it might not be so popular. But we need that internal tracker so that we don't get caught up in negativity. And we need to transform all the time wasting that we have also, isn't it? That's neutral actions, but neutral in a way that they don't carry harm, but they're still creating tendencies. If we just lay about and don't do very much, if we're always on social media or just lying about, doing daily tasks, but not really engaging in positivity, it's still creating tendencies and strengthening our tendencies for laziness or avoidance or, doing nothing much beneficial. And at the end of our life, there won't be much to really show for it, and not much benefit. So we need to engage to transform that. It's a bit like loads of wasted potential, isn't it? Our neutral time, the time that we can see. If we mark down, if we really kept a diary of what we did throughout the day, we would be amazed at how little we accomplish a lot of the time. I mean, compare that to a day when you have, say you may be doing a week's retreat. Your day is completely full up with a schedule, right? You have your sessions, you have your study, you have your break, you have your session, you have your break, you have your lunch, you have your tea. Everything is accounted for, and you're making really good use of time. But when it comes to when we have more leeway and we can just lay back and relax, we tend to be less productive and less focused. So we need to look at those three areas and to really make sure we give up negative actions, really make sure we practice positive, apply ourselves positively without being, without becoming really annoying also. And an annoying do-gooder. We have to do all of this with some kind of wisdom, some kind of intelligence, and not impose ourselves. And then we should observe how, at the end of the day, how did we manage? We should bring that mindfulness into every day, and then we can benefit. The Tonglen teachings tell us at the end of the day, or the beginning of the day, set the motivation, remind yourself of how you're going to do today, and at the end of the day, look back and just have a look, see how did I do. Then gradually we become more used to it. So then the fourth one of these is mindfulness, which is of course hugely important. Meditation, mindfulness. In meditation we're also training in mindfulness. And we learn to take control of our own reactions, of our mind not going all over the place. We become vigilant, we learn to become aware, vigilant. And the more we develop mindfulness, awareness, vigilance, the more we become free. We free the mind from the negative emotions, desire, attachment, anger, aversion, ignorance, pride, etc. And all of the things that follow along with that, the selfishness that follows along with the kleshas, and the selfish motivation. So when the mind is free from the negative emotions, we have room to think about others. We have room for a vast motivation. So it's said that we should, when we have a beginner's mind, or when we see that we are beginners, we still don't have quite a lot of control, we should stop our beginner's mind from being swept away by thoughts, or by fastening it with a rope of mindfulness. So that's what we do in meditation, isn't it? We don't have this, the last line says, grant your blessing that there may be freedom from the idea of something to meditate on. We still need, in Shine and Shamatha, we still need something to meditate on. We are not yet free from that. We must tie our mind with a rope of mindfulness to the object of the meditation, because without that, our mind wanders. Our mind gets distracted. Or we should close this like a glass lantern. When you have a lantern that's a flame is burning inside, you put this glass lantern down above it and it shelters the flame so that the wind of thoughts and distraction, the wind of distraction does not blow out the flame. You could say that's what mindfulness does to our ability to stay non-distracted in meditation. We calm all the wild thoughts that are constantly unsettling us, and the agitated mind or the sluggish mind. Agitation and sluggishness is our main issues. So I wanted to read something for you from Akong Rinpoche's, a quote from Akong Rinpoche. I think somebody had asked about where the quotes came last time from Akong, which is from Only the Impossible is Worth Doing. If you have that book, there are some quotes in there. And here he talks about mindfulness. These are quotes from the retreat. So he says, in sleep we are mainly unmindful, being very rarely able to recognize that we are dreaming. You should make an effort to be mindful before you go to sleep. And again, immediately when you wake up, you should re-establish mindfulness. Gradually, you will be able to be mindful 20 hours a day, and then little by little, 24 hours a day. Mindfulness is achieved through constant effort and diligence. Everything can be made useful in developing mindfulness if we watch closely. And especially in the Kagyu tradition, faith and devotion are very important in helping to increase mindfulness. It cannot be bought or made, only diligence can bring it about. So here, Akong Rinpoche is telling us, reminding us of the importance of mindfulness and of the importance of devotion. When we have devotion, our mind is settled. It is not caught up in distraction. It is not caught up in desire. It is very content and present. So, shamatha, this is sustained calm, and then you say insight is what arises out of that. But in order to develop insight, we need to develop first this shamatha, or calm abiding, sustained calm. We develop that we develop or work on developing the shine so that we can give rise to insight. But without the shine, we cannot give rise to insight. The common example that is also used in many of the texts or explanations is that if you think of a body of water, a lake, as the mind, and the little waves on the surface of the water is the mental agitation and the thoughts and the distractions. So by developing shine, it's like we have this calm surface. All the mental agitation it dies down. The mind is settled. There are no more waves on the surface. With the calm abiding, we have developed this ability to settle the mind. So the surface of the water is calm. And when the surface of the water is calm, we can then, any reflection within that water is clearly seen for what it is. If you see the moon, it's clearly reflected in that water. So it means that there's a true reflection in that water, and insight can arise, meaning we can see the nature of our mind. But when all those waves are there, whatever we experience is a distortion. Whatever we experience is not the truth. We're not seeing what is really there. We are seeing our own version of events. We are seeing our own version of things. So I'm just checking how much time we have left. I wanted to also read to you from the Rain of Wisdom, from Jamgon Kongtrul's Doha in the Rain of Wisdom, where he, this is the Jamgon Kongtrul the Great, and he says here in this, it's quite a long doha. It's an amazing doha describing the path of Mahamudra. So I'll just taken out a few little bits of it, and he says here, ground Mahamudra is the view, understanding things as they are. Path Mahamudra is the experience of meditation. Fruition Mahamudra is the realization of one's own mind as Buddha. I am unworthy, but my Guru is good. Though born in the dark age, I am very fortunate. Though I have little perseverance, the oral instructions are profound. So then he goes on to say in more details about this, but also then I'm jumping to another verse that says, there is no point in much talk, but the beginner needs various things. One should abandon either welcoming or sending off thoughts of past and future. The instantaneous mind of nowness is the unfabricated innate nature. In meditation, there should be no trace of deliberateness. One should not stray for an instant in confusion. None wandering, none meditation, none fabrication are the point. With freshness, looseness and clarity, in the space of the three gates of liberation, one is mindful, establishing proper watchfulness. Always keeping the mind balanced between tight and relaxed, One pacifies the accumulation of subtle, tangible and gross thoughts. Rest in the state of natural, unfabricated mind. So he also says, both shamatha meditation of natural resting and insight meditation, which sees the unseeable, should not be separated but unified in stillness, occurrence and awareness, beyond abandoning discursive confusion and beyond applying antidotes. There will be a time when you spontaneously reach this. So this is just a small part of his description of the path of Mahamudra. I'll maybe go into that more in the next time, but it is so profound and so beautiful and so vast, his explanation, and so inspiring. So I think that we need to leave it there, but just to, as a conclusion, then remember these prerequisites for Shine, for this body of meditation. How do I improve my meditation? How do I improve my inner stability? How do I improve my own spiritual path? And you can look and analyze, do I have this suitable environment? Is there things I could do to my environment? Do I have the inner, the outer environment? Do I have the inner environment, the inner attitude? Do I have contentment? Am I also always ruled by desire? Do I have my moral compass pointing in the right direction? Ethical discipline? Am I engaged actively in the right way? Do I apply mindfulness and awareness in my day-to-day activities, both during formal meditation and outside of my meditation? How stable is my own mind? Which part of my mind, or which part of these areas is the strongest areas I need to work on? So we could look at that and do our best and engage in that way as a sort of a conclusion to this verse of developing non-distraction. And we'll leave it there and do dedication. Sorry, there was one question. Somebody sent through a question asking if I could explain what it means to that transcending our suffering is to see the nature of our mind. I don't remember it, but it must have been part of the last session. So, but really, when we transcend the suffering, once we have transcended suffering, that is what we arrive at, the nature of our mind. Suffering is what obscures the nature of our mind, the causes of suffering. All of these clinging to ourself, our ignorance, our attachment and our aversion, this is what obscures the nature of our mind. And so and this is what causes suffering. So when we have transcended suffering and found freedom and tamed our mind and found freedom from the kleshas and non-duality, then we arrive at the nature of mind. So that was what I meant to say last time. Hope that explains it a bit better. So let's do the dedication and hope to see you next time. Sanam deye tamche sepane topne nyepe dranam pamchene chegana che balav tupaye sepe sole dowa dolwa cho shamcho semne rimpoche Mache panam jejo chik che pai nyam pai me padang kone kondo pelwa sho gewa de nyododa Cha cha chen po drup jone, towa chik cham alu pa de sala goodbye. See you next time, everybody.